Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the stream. I hope everybody's well. Welcome to the second stream of 2 nights. I don't know quite why I decided to do this. I think because I'd had a couple of weeks off, I felt I probably overcompensated. Much to your benefit, I hope. Yes, good evening. I hope everything is all going well. We are going to be watching Mad Dog Killer tonight, which is a terrific film, Italian crime thriller starring Helmut Berger and Richard Harrison, amongst others. This is a film that I did a special for Josh Hadley. Josh Hadley got tasked with putting together a featurette for it, for the German release of it, and he very kindly kind of bundled me in on that, and I've told you all about it before, but it was a lot of fun. I believe it's on his channel, so if I can remember at some point, I will try to put a link up on Facebook or something like that, and maybe something in the description at some point, just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to watch it with me and my wild hair that I described yesterday. I was a bit of a mess, but there you go. The rest of it looked terrific. I did a fantastic job on it. Oh dear. Richard says, I'm watching Rentario live stream. Spock is doing a public information film about sexual diseases. Nice. Okay. Known as the film within Jackie Brown and Bridget Fonda watched. Yes, it makes a little cameo appearance. This is a very stylish film, it has to be said. It's no surprise that Quentin Tarantino was taken with it, as he has been with a lot of movies. There is one thing about the guy, he gets a lot of stick for lifting stuff from movies, but he does tend to pick very good movies. He's got a good taste in films. And I've always thought, the one argument that I've always had is a lot of people go, he plagiarises. I don't think I would characterise it quite as that. I think he does lift a lot of stuff from other films, but there's always something about Quentin Tarantino's movies that always feel like a Quentin Tarantino movie, even when he's doing somebody else. You know what I mean? There's always a character to his films, so he changes stuff within them. He doesn't just ape the films, he kind of makes them his own. And you can argue the morality of that or the artistic integrity of that. Personally, I think he's made some really, really fantastic films. Ever listen to Tarantino's movie podcast? It's surprisingly boring. Really? Well, it can't all be as dynamic as someone like me, talking off the cuff on movies. It takes charm, wit, and intelligence. Can't wait a few minutes before starting. Gotta be something for a couple of minutes. Yeah, well, we'll get started in about 10 past. So I believe I put the link into the description. Let me just double check. Yes, I did. So if everybody gets themselves all kind of queued up and ready to go with that, or have your copies or whatever you happen to have, I will be running from the YouTube version for tonight because at least I know that will kind of sync up with everybody. At least it's the best chance we've got. So yeah. Hello, Kerry. Kerry's back in the house again. Yeah. Wild hair. Why do I now imagine you with a giant perm? It wasn't far off because my hair just went completely floofy. It was a hot day and I'd just had a shower about 15 minutes before I kind of jumped in front of a camera. And me not being on for product. Yeah, we've got a lot of people in the house tonight. Richard, Indy, John, Kerry, Simon is in the house, which is great. Helmut Berger sounds like a German McDonald's. I'm kind of fascinated by the guy. He's had quite an interesting life, to say the least. And I've kind of always, since I first seen this film, kind of felt he was cast against type somewhat in this movie, but we will discuss that as we go along. I guess this is a first time watch for me, says Indy. I hope you'll enjoy it. It's actually a really good film. It's pretty good paced and lots of action and yeah, it's one of the Section 3 titles, which is always worth noting. Yeah, I've never really sort of been massively into the particular genre which this comes from. Polischetti, I believe it is, which is just Italian crime thrillers. So it's not in giallo sort of range of stuff. It's more the cops and robbers type of thing. Hope this is an English dub. It is. It is an English dub. At least for the most part, as far as I can see. I checked on a couple of points. It seemed to be the English dub. Otherwise, we're gonna have to put the subtitles on, aren't we? No, it looks like a fairly good version. It's not the highest quality out there, but it is. It's more than good enough for watching tonight. Too many ahoys spoils the broth or something. Dear Polischetti. Polizioschetti. Yeah. Thank you, Kieran. Yeah. One of the lads on the featurette that we did was much better at kind of pronouncing all that stuff. Because when we filmed it, we just sort of Josh sent over a list of questions. Obviously, he wanted us all kind of in a much more sort of answering the same sort of stuff, so they could cut between us and edit all the stuff together. And it's a really nicely edited little featurette. The guys that did that did an amazing job, and it was kind of fun because there was a whole bunch of faces that I sort of recognised. I mean, Brad Jones had a little snippet in it for one thing, which is kind of tickling. I was a massive fan of Cinema Snob back in the day, so that was always kind of fun. But there was a whole bunch of people, Mr. Lobo and Cecil Trachtenberg, and all sorts of others on there. Josh didn't appear in it, unfortunately. I think he should have done. Although yeah. It's a good documentary on the topic of Italian crime movies called Eurocrime. Oh, really? Okay. That sounds interesting. It's not one of the genres I've really kind of like delved into much. Obviously, my interest in Italian exploitation really started with kind of zombie films and stuff like that. Then sort of went into the giallo and actually really kind of started, I think, more with Mondo. I did get a fascination with that and the zombie films and the cannibal films, and those three genres are really what I kind of concentrated on for a very long time. And I've sort of spread out a little bit, and eventually I kind of, although it's not Italian, I did kind of branched off into stuff like Jess Franco's films and all that kind of stuff. And obviously the big one being Salo, not Jess Franco film, obviously Pasolini film. I just kind of got into kind of wider sort of fields of it, but the Italian crime stuff not so much. I mean, it's only really recently that I got into watching some of the spaghetti westerns and stuff like that, which it's almost unforgivable that I missed those. But I was never much of a western fan, but I've been giving it a try over the last year. So I've watched a couple of the American ones like Shane and stuff like that, and then of course the spaghetti western stuff, mostly Sergio Leone. It's been interesting to get into those. Didn't grow up with Cinema Snob. I was a kid when he started that series, but I like his earlier vids, especially the ones where you hear the camera motor in the background. Yes. Yeah, he was back. I mean, you could argue that I was from back in the day as well. Because I started in 2009 and YouTube was not that old then. It's only a few years old then. So, I mean, Brad kind of started around about sort of the same time as I did. He got much bigger, obviously. He did Channel Awesome stuff and all that Channel Awesome stuff kind of really, really took off. I mean, even I wanted to be a part of that, but then, eventually I kind of realised that it wasn't really the sort of scene I'd want to be in anyway, way before all the drama that kind of happened with them. And I ended up falling in with Josh and the others, with the Videodrome and Lost in the Static and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of fun. I was supposed to do my first Radiodrome because I was a guest on Radiodrome, and Brad Jones was supposed to be on, and he for whatever reason couldn't turn up. I'd had to delay the recording of that one due to dodgy internet. Actually watched a spaghetti western this morning, No Graves on Boot Hill, directed by Sergio Garrone. Oh, really? Oh, that sounds interesting. I mean, the whole spaghetti western thing is an interesting phenomenon, although it's very illustrative of the Italian exploitation scene anyway. Because they did take whatever the popular genres were from around the world and kind of made their own versions. Obviously, a lot of the zombie films stemmed from Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and so on. So whatever America was doing, Italy wanted a slice of the pie. But they always kind of put their own spin on it. You could always tell it was an Italian film, despite how much they would try to hide the fact. But yeah, I mean, they're a force for interesting filmmaking, to say the least. I mean, they churn out their fair share of real shit, but it's amazing how many classics they also turned out as well. Radiodrome was another early fave. Yeah, that was a great series. I was very privileged to have... How many did I do? About 5 or 6 as a guest. And working with Josh and the guys, whoever happened to be on at the time, was a lot of fun because they were really, really lovely guys. And Josh, for all the faults that people like to kind of point at him, and he is a bit of a handful. Josh, for all of his eccentricities, is an excellent host, and he knows how to control the show, and he knows how to kind of make things happen in a way as to kind of make a decent product at the end of it. And if he'd done it as a video form, I do wonder if it would have taken off a bit more than as a podcast. Although the podcast form was good for people, who are just running around and want to listen to it in the background. It would have been interesting, I think, to see a Videodrome kind of 2-camera kind of thing. Could have been interesting. Right. Sergio Garrone started with spaghetti westerns, and from the 3 of his I've watched, it seems he was a somewhat competent director in the genre. A lot of these guys were. It's and then they get sort of stuck in doing films that they don't want to do. And you can say the same with Lucio Fulci. That you can tell when he doesn't really want to make the film. You can tell when he's doing his equivalent of Jess Franco's Dinner on the Table movies. But yeah, I mean, that is one of the wonderful things, I think, anyway, with Euro exploitation, particularly Euro cinema in general, was that the directors, especially in the exploitation kind of end of things, were very versatile, and they just wanted to work. And it ended up with different results. Often you would get a lot of shit gets kicked out, and the occasional good film. Joe D'Amato is a good example of that. Jess Franco is a good example of that. Bruno Mattei, I think he was pretty constantly kind of ragged. But a lot of people like his movies, so, fair play. Oh dear. Like that, Eastwood carried over the realistic tone he directed his westerns when he directed his westerns, like Unforgiven. Yeah, it's one of the things with the spaghetti westerns. They did have a tendency to be kind of a lot grittier than the American ones. They got a bit down and dirty, and it felt a lot more violent. And at the time, I think that was a problem for them. Was the levels of violence felt a lot more brutal, although there's not a heck of a lot of blood involved in them. As people get shot, but it always felt a lot uglier. D'Amato is still my jam, fair enough, and I've been meaning to get into a lot more D'Amato, and I think I am toying with the idea of doing something involving D'Amato's works, because the more I've watched, the more interesting I find the guy. I do think he is a guy in the same sort of vein as Jess Franco and worthy of the kind of attention. He gets a lot of stick because he did a lot of porn, but so did Jess Franco and Bruno Mattei. And if you're going to ignore a director just because of that sort of stuff, then don't forget about Zelanak. He did a couple of good films along the way, didn't he, though? Bruno Mattei made some fun films. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Bruno. I have to say, I don't think I've watched any of his films and particularly found them enjoyable. Zombie Creeping Flesh is probably the closest, but even that is pushing it for me because it feels so vividly over the top. It is. It's like a poorly written cartoon or comic book to some extent. And a lot of people would really kind of find that a lot of fun. But yeah, if you want a brutal Western, Glenn, check out Soldier Blue. Great film. That's a good recommendation. Anyway, let's start getting some thumbs up. We'll get cracking. This film is 95 minutes long. So we can... we'll get started in just a few minutes. You snooze. I snooze. I don't find him boring so much as I find him distracting. I find it hard to get into his films. When you look at something like, D'Amato's work and Franco's work and Fulci's work, those particular films do have... but when they're good, they're really, really good. Very, very involved and stuff. And certainly with Franco's stuff, as John's going to come to realise more and more as he goes along, there's often in the centre of these really kind of crappy dinner ticket meals, films that he makes. There's often something in there which really kind of works, that is very kind of interesting and actually worthy of thought in there. But yeah, gladiators are ready. You're ready. Okay. Okay, so we'll get started. Bang on, Glenn. Watching a Mattei movie. I'm constantly distracted by the cringy title. Yeah, that's for Grasso and stuff, isn't it? We can probably talk a little bit about this as we go through the movie anyway. So stand by your beds, folks. We are about to kick off. I'll go count to 5 and go on go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Was Craven and Abel Ferrara made porn too? Yes, they did. A lot of American directors did. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. 9 Lives of a Wet Pussy is Ferrera's. Wes Craven's was Angela the Fireworks Woman. I love that glance that Helmut Berger gives as he comes through the door, sort of like looks at the lot and go, haha. So they couldn't afford a sports car for this movie. I think it's snobbery really when people kind of give them a hard time for what they were doing just to put food on the table and a roof over their head in the early days. A lot of these guys just wanted to be able to make money to be able to go make other films and stuff like that. And it was, they're clearly decent filmmakers. They were just not recognised by the system. I love this soundtrack. Gets played a lot during the film, but it doesn't get tired. Is that very familiar font that just about every Italian movie from around that time was using? I guess it must have been on sale or something. You see it all the time. Same sort of font in like Lucio Fulci's films and Bruno Mattei's films and that kind of stuff. Surprisingly easy prison break. Well, we didn't see the tussle inside, did we? And one of the things about this character is he is um, known to be rather brutal. I think one of the alternative titles, if I remember right, was Ferocious, and another was Street Killers. And I think it's got quite caught up in a lot of stuff, mostly less for the violence than it was for the sexual violence which happens within it. There is a bit of that in this. Watching as many Polichetti as me, it seems Italy only had two car types. Yes, they were, probably the cheap and readily available ones. They weren't going to get a Ferrari in this, were they? See, the thing with Helmut Berger is he is just this, very beautiful guy. I mean, he manages to pull off the intensity needed for it because he's really got those kind of like serious bloody eyes. But it's you don't expect this absolute brutal killer to be this, virtually a model. You can also hear the same American dub voices in every one of these films. I imagine it was a good earner for a lot of these people. And sometimes, obviously, the main actors would dub their own voices and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people really do kind of wonder why it is that they're Italians and Euro films in general would record with well, they'd shoot the film but without sound, and they would add sound later, dub over and all that kind of stuff, and they kind of wonder why they did that. And it's, there's technical reasons why you would do that. There's also kind of things like it makes it a lot easier at the end of the day to throw together multiple markets worth of work. So you could do like a French and a German language version and an English language version, and all you do is you just bring in your actors in, you kind of groups of actors in shifts essentially, and it kind of works like that. So that, financially it's probably a lot easier. Because if it didn't, then they would have to record all the sound effects and all that kind of stuff, and then sort of match it all up with multiple kind of voices and all that kind of stuff. I think the guy who dubbed Helmut did the voice work in Cannibal Ferox and House on the Edge of the Park. It does sound familiar. Stream is freezing, going to download quick. Okay. Well, just ask for a time stamp when you need it. Helmut Berger's model look is used to great effect in Dorian Gray, which I mentioned yesterday. Yeah, I mean, one of the comments I made when I recorded the featurette was that he is a frankly beautiful guy. He's, it doesn't matter how straight you are, you can look at that guy and go, that's a gorgeous fucking guy. And I think his lifestyle was lived accordingly, from what I've understood of kind of like how he got along. That police officer dub actor is the one who dubbed Al Cliver in Zombie Flesh Eaters, really? Okay, cool. And congratulations on getting the first Al Cliver mention. Left behind a perfectly good dead body. Very wasteful. It really doesn't waste any time either getting into the action. It's like, literally, it's about 10 seconds at the beginning of the film, and it's just constant. These guys escape prison, get into a car chase, dump the body of their friend while hijacking another car, and are about to rob a gas station. And we're not even 10 minutes in. Guy's wearing a tablecloth as a shirt. Yes. I'd like the Mario look of the petrol attendant, so. It's what I love about Italian genre cinema. The movie begins at 00 seconds, no logos, nothing, just gets in the heart of the matter instantly. It's not always true. I mean, there are plenty of very, very slow films as well, but they tended to be quite punchy films. But this certainly is. It will really waste no time getting into it. I think his mum dressed him as the missing Mario, yes. This is Italy, so it's likely one of those guys are called Mario. The crime pays. They'll get taken out, though. Another thing you have to accept in Polichetti is that every character usually can take a severe beating and still fight back fine. I think that's a movie trope in general, though, isn't it? Fighting in real life is a much scrappier affair. Far less elegant. Only mistake, getaway car is a Citroen with one of those warm-up back suspension things. Okay. Just doesn't pick the best automobiles to keep. I think Dickie needs to don his ninja outfit. Now, somebody informed me earlier that this was before he did any of that kind of stuff, but yeah. One of the things about this is, Richard Harrison doesn't have that much screen time in this film, but he does tend to make good use of it. There's a couple of bits which are very goofy, sort of comedy kind of things, which I've always felt was a little bit off. And I never really quite understood the absolute need for having the comic relief type thing into films. Because Last House on the Left did it with the comedy cops and that kind of stuff. You go, just bring the temperature down a little bit, just to kind of ease the tension. And you can do that, and it's legitimate, but sometimes they go way over the top in how they do it. Best realistic fight, this is England 88, looks really shit. I'm trying to think which is... obviously They Live is one of the best fights, because that is just like a slugfest. There's nothing balletic about that. And I quite like that, because it just felt so very grounded and brutal. But it's not the whole kind of dancing around and doing all the fancy moves all the way. Ninth Configuration is one of the cool fist fights in cinema history as well. Comedy cops are a bit of a staple in these, and even US horror of the era. Yeah. Hong Kong movies are the worst when it comes to shoehorn comedy. You have super grim violent scene followed immediately by a slapstick scene with idiot cops. Yeah, I never really got that kind of approach. This film does have a little bit of a shift in tone from time to time, like I say. But you get scenes like this, and it's like, yeah, there's a very tense, kind of mean-spirited scene. Dickie's left-handed, legend. The southpaw. It's a recently escaped convict, and look how fucking stylish he is. I wish I looked 1/10 as fucking sexy as that guy. God, can you imagine? He must have had people... Because I believe he was bi. I think he was getting whatever he wanted all over the bloody place. This could have been shot just up the road from me. There's a chalk pit, which is now a nature reserve. It kind of looks a lot like this. Not with the hut, though. It's just effortlessly mean, isn't he? He's a real bully. And actually, that's kind of one of those things which is very notable about this film, is that he is very much a bully. I'm just going to turn my mic down a little bit. I seem to be peaking a little bit. There we go. Hopefully everybody can still hear me okay. Yeah, it's... he's an interesting character, because when he's got power, he's very, very mean. And will use every ounce of his power to the fullest extent. But he completely flips on a dime when tables are turned on him. Just looked up his wiki. Seems he was on German "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here" recently. Really? He's not. He's not that young these days either. So yeah, if he did drop out of it, it seems an odd choice for something like that, considering his age. And he's got to be in, well into his 70s at this point. It's that odd sex thing that they do in a lot of movies where trousers on and they kind of straddle one leg, which would make it quite difficult to, at least, yeah. Dry humpy time. It's one of those funny things, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's still uncomfortable, but it always looks a little bit ridiculous when the hold back with a scene like that. All I can say is ouch. Yeah, that bit where they stopped that guy running towards her is I assume that's the bit you're talking about. Works quite well. The sound on it is kind of cool as well. It just sounds like a cracked rib going off, don't it? Most egregious rape scenes are the ones in Giallo Venezia, and Patrick still lives. Both movies made same people too. It's not to say that that you have to kind of show a lot, but if you don't want to show a lot, film it in a way that you don't have them kind of obviously not doing it. You know what I mean? He's just that kind of. He's a particularly vicious schoolyard bully, isn't he? It's the kind of feeling that you get from this guy. Dragon Punch there, yeah. And you have to give this guy credit. He ain't going down in a rush, is he? Howard Burke is a total douchebag in this. Yes, he is. He's a nasty, spiteful piece of work. And you only really get to know just enough about him. You don't really know that much about his past. But you do get to learn what the kind of nature of this character is. Yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, that's the thing. That guy is like kind of hard as rock. It's like the amount of abuse he's just taken, and he was still on his bloody feet for ages. It never looks quite as satisfying when they go down on the first knock. It's an interesting shot, this one. It's kind of got some weird suggestions. It's almost a heroic thing. You know, one kind of wonders if that's almost his self-image. Looks like a proper naughty poncho, yes. Was this Grieco's final movie? I don't know, to be honest with you. Well, the puddler guy went in wasn't going to be wouldn't be lime, but yeah. So I don't know if you've jumped ahead or not there. Just so you know, we are on 23 minutes and 58 seconds. Yeah, work, bitches. These guys, like, it's like, what do they kind of... why are they following him? They do all the lifting, literal and figurative. And he just kind of struts around and does his thing. Oh, okay, good, Kieran. I just wanted to make sure you were still in sync with us. Helmet sits back as his mates do the hard work, and he metaphorically cracks a whip on their back for their effort. Yeah. Where did they get all that line from? That would be a nasty way to go. Just because he has a cool black leather jacket, yes. What is lime? Oh god, I'd have to look up the chemical for it, but quicklime. Calcium oxide. It's basically very caustic. But the Island of Death is that pit that he's stuck in is lime, which is why he's generally, although he's very uncomfortable, he's generally okay until it starts raining. I think it's. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, thermal decomposition of. Used to be used as a chemical weapon. But basically, what happens with lime is when it gets exposed to water, quicklime, when it gets exposed to water, it heats up. Time code is 28 minutes and 20 seconds. I don't know if it is used in cement, but I think it's partly as a way of heating up the mixture and causing the chemical reaction to speed up. But nasty stuff to get exposed to. Like I say, back in like kind of Roman days and in China, ancient China, they used to spread it around as a way of harming people, be it rioting crowds or an opposition. Quickly going to grab another beer. I'm back. Don't mention Island of Death here. You know, it's one of the few times I was very, very tempted to do a very petty response to that director for what he did. Hello, Iris. Currently watching the movie, link in the description at 30 minutes and 10 seconds. Slimestone's been refined, dried out in the kiln, which alters its composition. Yeah. Helmet hot dog. That nice lady looks like she's been in vintage porn. She's quite striking. When it comes in contact with water, a chemical reaction occurs, it becomes super hot. Yeah. Pretty much what I said, yeah. Heavily alkaline as well. Simon's coming out with all the lime facts tonight, folks. Thanks, Simon. It's used in a lot of films as a way of sort of getting rid of bodies and all that kind of stuff and killing people in quite nasty ways. Yeah. It's a very well made. It's a well made film, though. There is a sense of self-assuredness about the direction, like it's actually trying to make a serious crime film like Michael Mann or something. I think that is partly the intent. It does take itself seriously enough, you know. There's very little in this movie that's designed to be overtly comic. He's a master of disguise. Google is your friend. Yes, it is. I just Wikipedia'd it just to make sure. I'm kind of aware of what lime is, but I just wanted to kind of make sure before I put my foot in it. Always fact check yourself. It's a good idea. Team Wolf said yes. Mario. We got a Mario. It's me, a crime-fighting Mario. Didn't recognise me there, did you? Or use a VPN to hide your tracking. Yes. There's a little touch of the Giovanni Lombardo Radice in certain bits of the performance. Is anyone going to be at the Mayhem Festival in Nottingham this October? Probably not, but I don't know. Have to see, because my birthday's in October, so I might be. Well, I'm definitely going to be up in Melton Mowbray, which is not that far away from Nottingham. So I'll have to see. His helmet is about to enter a oh dear. He's not a tender guy, is he, Indy? She's going to have to lay back and think of Naples. Music sounds like something from an early 80s arcade or something. It is used a lot, that particular track, but I kind of like it. It's something about that music which is just fits this film just perfectly. Just realised Helmet's voice is the same one that dubbed John Morgan in Cannibal Ferox. I thought he sounded the same. Where are we in the film? The time check is 37 minutes and 20 seconds. What, no smoke after the nookie? Well, it's just not that bad a boy. Hope these guys waiting for him aren't parked on a double yellows, yeah. Anyone seen Last House on the Beach? Sort of a psychological thriller, Polischetti non-exploitation hybrid. No, I haven't. That sounds eccentric, to say the least. This is where Tommy Wiseau learnt his love-making techniques. What's the difference between double yellow and the red lines? I believe the red lines are no stopping. You can stop on double yellows, but you can't get out the car. 70s hairy down there. Yes. That's nostalgic. I was watching that flick the other day, but didn't get far. Was impressed by what I did see. Okay. I quite enjoyed Nightmare Beach, as I remember. Thoroughly daft movie, but goes around like he's been drawn in crayon by a 6-year-old. it didn't stand out in my memory enough Nightmare Beach to really kind of stick in my memory. But I don't remember feeling particularly objectionable towards it either. I think I saw it on Prime at some point. I don't own it. You know, see that news report of a crim who was caught with the funniest looking identikit ever. It's kind of amazing sometimes the some of the old kind of identikit and artists' impressions over the years. I would be terrible giving any artist descriptions of that or of anyone. Right after the Bee Gees. Criminal Records. What other horror films did Vincent Dawn, Bruno Mattei do apart from Rats, Night of Terror, Zombie, Creeping Flesh? Oh, crikey. Now I've got to try and remember the Bruno Mattei catalogue. We are currently on 43 minutes and 3 seconds. We did a bunch of the Nazi exploitation, obviously SS Girls, Women Camps 119. Did an Emmanuel film, not horror, but Hell of the Living Dead, The Other Hell. Women's Prison Massacre. Dear oh dear. Zombie 3. He did a couple of the zombie films, didn't he? Yeah. Bunch of them. In the Land of the Cannibals, Mondo Cannibal. Island of the Living Dead, Zombies, the Beginning. Matteo also directed the murder scenes in Night Killer, which is a piss poor film. Yeah, I mean, there's some people who are really kind of enamoured with his work. I've never been that enamoured. It's particularly when he gets teamed up with Claudio Fragrasso. The dialogue gets about 10 times worse as soon as that pairing happens. And it's almost like, you know, with the horror films particularly, it's like he's trying to do the whole kind of Suspiria thing, but it ends up looking more like those moments in Creature where the lights go all kind of crazy. You kind of like it, so yeah, and it's fair enough. I don't think anyone's stupid for liking Bruno Mattei. It's just never really kind of appealed to me. I mean, I remember Brad Jones used to do the Bruno Mattei show thing, and they would discuss a film, and it kind of like just suddenly stopped. They did about, I don't know, maybe about 7 or 8 maybe of those, and then it just suddenly stopped, and they could have kept going forever because it's like Jess Franco in that respect, and he's got hundreds of bloody credits. It's just like this moment in the film. It's such a weird tonal shift in this. Such a nice guy. Watching this in HD now, it's kind of beautiful. Something can always be said about location shooting in Europe. Yeah, it takes a decent cinematographer to get it right, though. And it's always a weird thing because obviously a lot of these lower budget films, and these films didn't have massive budgets at all, they're often saddled with not the greatest equipment in the world. They've not got bad stuff in this, but it's one of the things Eurocine always did really well, is that they would supply the filmmakers with good equipment, so to get a good quality visual image, even if everything else was off about it. But I can just imagine they went to like the photography shops and sort of like just bought up a whole bunch of equipment wholesale. A couple of pallets of cameras, a couple of pallets of tripods, a couple of pallets of lighting equipment, and all that kind of stuff. And they'll just send these directors out with these packages. Moody cabbies. I remember when I arrived in the US and the cabbie drove like mad to get us out to hotel because he was pissed that the distance was really short or some shit. The closest I've come to that is a cabbie in Toronto, but he was lovely. I've always enjoyed the Canadians. Yeah, the film grain would always be sexy to me. See, the thing is, this film wouldn't have looked bad at all even back in the day. In the cinema it would have looked really quite nice. The Blu-ray edition that I did the extra for is really a nice version of this. It's cleaned up quite beautifully, but not so much as to sanitize it. There's always something a little bit off with the colour timing and stuff on versions of this. Like this one has a little bit of a tinge of green to it a lot of the time. Indy says, I'm Canadian. Great to hear. No, I love Canada. I'd love to go back sometime soon. I think if I do it this time, I'd probably have to go to the other coast because I spent my time in Ontario. Both times that I went. As much shit as Toronto gets thrown at it, it's one city that I really enjoy being around. The pace of it suits me. The 70s, where you could just rush into a place willy-nilly, guns blazing, without a care in the world. You have a projector going with that HD version, bit washed, but oh, nice, very nice. I would love to have a projector and all that kind of stuff, but I got nowhere to use it. If I ever get myself a really nice, decent sized place, I would love to get like a 16mm and a 32mm projector and films to shove on. That'd be so cool. Can we watch Strike Commander one week? It's on YouTube. Put the link in Rambleaholics and remind me on a couple of occasions, and we'll have a look at perhaps doing that. Remember when I first played this on my 55 4K? Fucking hell, dude. Amazed at how good it looked. My place is very small, so getting TV to that size in this place is not an easy job. Strike Commando's Matei movie. Okay. You know what? I mean, we've watched them before. We certainly can put it on. It's the one thing with me. I don't care necessarily if I think the film is good or whether I think it's crap. As long as it's got enough to talk about, it's fine. And we've watched Zombie Creep and Flesh on a couple of occasions already, so this movie has convinced me that crime is just too stressful. Projector takes much less space in the set for me. Biggest problem I've got is I haven't got any blank walls. So it'd be pointless. But if I was in a place where I had a decent sized garden or that kind of stuff, I would build a screen or something like that. That's emoji indie. That car would be so fucked. You can get a pull down screen, yeah. Well, I'm hoping for my theatre that we get a new screen at some point in the not too distant. We were very, very close, and then somebody kind of pulled the funding on us. But if I want to watch stuff on a big screen, I can do it at work. If we get the new screen and the new projector, it'll be even better. But it's quite nice on occasions. You got the theatre to yourself and just pull the screen down, put the projector on, and plug in a DVD player or a Blu-ray player. And you've got a full-on kind of cinema-sized screen then, with a theatre sound system to back it up. One of the few perks of running a theatre. Did he just gun down his own accomplices? I don't think he gunned them down, did he? Oh, I might have missed that. I think he just got the police to put their heads down so they wouldn't shoot him. Sorry, chair. New chair. Forgot to mention. Finally got a new one. It's so much better. It's so much better. Sounds sweet, Glenn. Yeah, it can be. It takes a minimal amount of setup, and you can just sit in there, have a few beers, and just fuck off. Great big screen with a sound system. I mean, it's not the greatest sound system by any means, but it's a fuck off great big set of PA speakers. So if I'm feeling particularly fruity, I'll get the subs out. Can't turn it up too much though, because the security will come around wondering what the fuck's going on. But luckily, I'm kind of like that with the security around there. They're good lads. It's a sweet moment for Helmet, yeah. It's David Bowie from The Man Who Fell to Earth. Well, another gorgeous looking guy, wasn't he? So he does have that look. I never really sort of made that kind of comparison. They both got that kind of flawless look to them, haven't they? It's an interesting moment, isn't it? Because, I mean, he's been this absolute fucking psychopath up until this point, and he actually gets to have a human moment. I always thought it was Bowie, not Bowie. I just want when the camera sort of pans across. I just want there to be a saxophone player. I have to say, the guys that dug that hole, they worked hard to dig that bloody hole in that kind of ground. Can you imagine trying to use a shovel in that shite? So it's not Zoe Bowie. It's not Zoe Bowie. It's Zoe Bowie. I love that film though, of The Man Who Fell to Earth. What a wonderful film. Candy ass son of a bitch. That's what they say in America, isn't it? Candy ass. It's reassuring. It's dangerous just being alive. Need to see Man Fell to Earth. Seen some of Rogue's work, but not all of it. It's a great film. It's weird, but it's great. Excuse me. Subtitles have much different English translation, which is quite common. Yeah. It's almost quite disorientating. Sometimes they're more accurate. But, because it's one of the things with dubbing and stuff like that, the sometimes they have to change the lines somewhat to actually make it match the lips, if they're the kind of movie that's actually bothered about that sort of thing. So when you see certain films, it's quite common in the spaghetti westerns that a line was important enough that they couldn't use they couldn't use a different take, or mess with the dialogue, so the dubbing would be completely off. Then there's other ones where they completely change the line, because to get the same kind of effect, but it is something very different that's being said, so it fits much better. It's that same house from Absurd. So we're going to see George Eastman's head kind of on the porch. Yeah, it's very distracting, isn't it? More so when they're saying something which is, almost at odds. You imagine he could play a really good hitman, actually, Helmut Berger. He's a piss poor shot. George Eastman turned 80 recently. Happy birthday to George Eastman. He's a hard worker. He's one of those guys that would do just about anything for filmmaking, so it'd be in many different departments. Get down on the floor, you silly tart. Good old-fashioned villain. He takes it seriously, and it is personal. Goes back to get his woman for a proper breakup. Was he trying to shoot her in the image? No, she just clocked him and jumped out of the way, didn't she? But yeah, it was a low shot, that's for sure. Hitman without a silencer at night, good idea. Not great for sniper rifle silencers, I wouldn't have thought. I'm no gun expert, but I'm pretty sure silencers have a detrimental effect on the performance of a bullet. On something like a sniper rifle, anyway. No, apparently they're quite good for kind of SWAT teams and stuff, because protects their hearing a bit, and they're not as quiet as you would imagine. But apparently they're good for just protecting the hearing, and also they reduce recoil, from what I understand. Don't silencers actually still make? Yes, they're loud, but they change the quality of the sound apart from anything else, and they deaden the sound somewhat, so you don't get a massive explosion. You get more of a crack. All things considered, she handled that shot to the thigh well. Yes, she did. She took it like a champ. Movie silencers are a trope. Yes, they are. They're not like quiet. There are ways to make guns that are that quiet, but they're not propellant driven. They tend to be I think you can get like kind of gas, like air pistol type, which are a lot quieter. Pay attention, Bond. Ethan's safety have insisted on these silencers. Nanny Vidalia, now I recognise you. Didn't I sentence you to 18 years of hard buggery? I just recently heard this story about some American judges, that, but one in particular who had basically had a secret deal with a local juvenile detention place, and he basically went around and just arbitrarily handed out custodial sentences to youths, regardless of whether they deserved it or not. And quite frankly, he was just like, wouldn't even give them a chance to defend themselves. Half the time wouldn't allow lawyers to, their lawyers to defend them. And recently got sent down for it. That'd be an interesting sort of take on a movie like this, as if the villain was kind of in that situation. Not a great time to shit talking. Probably not, no. It's one of the tropes, I think, isn't it, with a lot of kind of crime movies, is that you get the hard talking, all action police officers who would, in real life would likely get everybody killed. You want to watch Violent Rome? Really hard to find English dub version, only a German release. It's difficult to come by. Sounds interesting. Sounds more like a Mondo to me, though. The uploader of this film has a great channel, lots of full films on there. Yeah, we've been kind of lucky actually recently. Just there's been a whole bunch of channels recommended that have some great stuff on there. So hopefully we'll find a bunch of stuff on some of those. It doesn't let up, this film, does it? I mean, they're constantly running into roadblocks with slow motion cops. Oh God. Sometimes it's the only versions you can get, I guess, but Cine Macabre had some good movies. Okay. It's like a slow-mo of the Druids. It is, isn't it? Actually, yeah. It's dim on the right there, isn't it? Witty retort. Shut up. Might as well just turn around and go, sticks and stones. Not limping at all. She'd have just got shot in the upper thigh. Rip Georgie and Dim, yeah. It's a wonderful scene from Clockwork Orange show. Shut up, that's a common phrase in Fragrasso scripts, yes. See, Fragrasso would actually probably get away with a lot of the eccentricities of his writing if he'd actually allow the local actors to kind of make the dialogue a little bit more real. Or at least kind of realistic, I should say. But from what I understand, he has a tendency to absolutely insist on word for word. It has to be word for word. Now, I don't know if that's partly to do with they're worried about kind of matching things up at a later point, or whether it is just because he's so precious with the words that he writes. But there's been numerous occasions where Italian productions have insisted absolutely you've got to go word for word on the script. Right back. The genre land stuff, as you mentioned, I would be interested in finding some of the more quality stuff. I've always been exposed to the kind of lower rent Eurocine type stuff of his. There was somebody who used to follow me that I was actually really into that stuff. I don't know what happened to her, actually. She sort of disappeared off of YouTube. But she'd make videos and stuff on Roland. It's funny, a lot of the people that I used to follow. Wait a second, let's make sure that's. I think this light is not going to last too much longer. We'll see. Would help if the damn thing was plugged in, wouldn't it? There we go. Roland's movies tend to be really slow, though. That doesn't tend to bother me too much. Roland's fascination is not too bad. He's also made some vampire movies in the early 70s that give him a cult following. I'm more interested in just seeing some of the good stuff because I've never really explored the films. So it's like when you first approach something like Jess Franco, unless you got somebody kind of pointing you in the right direction to some of the good stuff or explaining some of the bad stuff, it can be a little overwhelming to kind of jump into, or very difficult at the very least. He's a super fan. That's interesting, Iris. This channel has some of Franco's and Roland's movies uncut. Roland uploads are in French, though. Shall have to try and check it out. God, it's humid tonight. I'm feeling very sweaty. Going in undercover. You know, that vehicle looks incredibly top-heavy, doesn't it? It's actually a hideously dangerous stunt and pulling in that fast. Oh, I just had play safe, that PSA kind of like flash through my head. Ricky, no! And I know it's Jimmy in the original, but... So precocious. Have your fucking breakfast. I'm reminded of the time Inspector Clouseau posed as a telephone engineer. God, I don't remember a damn thing about the Pink Panther films. Such a long time since I've seen them. Is that, yeah, have a drink, twat. Yeah, that kind of bugs me a little bit as well, Kieran. Called twat. It's twat. It's supposed to sound like the sound of a ruler slapping on a table. So I thought it should be twat, because I mean, one of the phrases we use in Britain is "I'm going to twat you." So it's not necessarily a genital reference, shall we say? Twat do I? It's a very awkward way to have to make a phone call. Guy up at Cannibal Ferox's house on the edge of the park usually says twat a lot. A load. I mean, one of the things is with the Italian kind of films of this sort of nature, where they're trying to make it palatable for an American audience, would obviously try and style it in that sort of way. So, yeah, it would kind of make sense. But John Morgan, yeah, it's Giovanni Lombardo Radice is his actual name. John Morgan's just his screen name. I always loved his very flamboyant kind of performances. David Hess also uses a phrase I've never heard anywhere else. You got to be cartooning. He's losing control now, isn't he? He's like, yeah. She put in a pretty good performance in this bit. I imagine this scene was probably one of the ones that would have got this film into a certain amount of trouble with the BBFC back in the day. They did not like blood on breasts. But it is one of the things that's kind of integral about the character is he takes the sadism is a kind of sexual thing for him, almost. This that's a bit heavy. Is this a PG-13 now? Section 3 time. Yeah. I'd imagine that more than anything would have been one of the things that they would have shown in court at some point or another. Though Section 3 would only ever get kind of like magistrate's court. It would not have been taken to a regular court. It's one of the injustices, I think, in some respects, because Section 3 is basically like the civil asset forfeiture that you get in America. It's kind of the same sort of basis where if they've got reasonable suspicion, they can get someone to sign off and can just take it. Although in America, it's just like the officer on the ground can take it. Section 3, they needed signed. As I remember, they needed a magistrate to sign off on the raid, and then they could go in and take pretty much what they wanted, and then the owner of said material would have to go to court to defend it or just forfeit it. So there was no fines necessarily, and there wasn't any kind of jail time involved with Section 3 seizures. It was just, unless they chose to kind of like follow up with some sort of charges under the Obscene Publications Act. But most of the time it would just be a case of the police would take it and burn it. Just think, we say how ridiculous it was for jailing people for renting videotapes. Now we arrest people for posting mean comments online. It's different context to it, but it's been a long-standing problem now, hasn't it, really, with the whole kind of idea and ideals of the internet. What constitutes harassment? And what constitutes a crime? There's plenty of people post stuff that if you'd done that on any other kind of media, you'd probably be hauled up in front of court. But it's a difficult thing to address. It's where is the line drawn? Is there a line drawn? Yeah, it's complicated. And this is the point in this film where you kind of you start to realise who Nanni Vitali is. You know, when he's in charge, he's a monster, and when he's got his back up against the wall and he's a lot, he's got a lot less to defend himself. He's kind of a snivelling coward. Game of slap starts. Not the face, not the face. It kind of plays into the whole sort of idea that he does, he is essentially an ultra-violent bully. Second, his back's against the wall and he's got very little to defend himself. He's not all that. Needs a good comeuppance, yes he does. It's one of those fight scenes you don't want to end too fast. It's not so fun on the other side, is it, mate? Now, where's that lime? What's this cost to buy on Blu-ray now? Not sure. I got mine for free because I did the stuff for it. Shopping. It's not many versions of it around at the moment. There's a what looks like a German version. Mad Dog Killer 88 films Blu-ray. 37 quid. Holy shit. But there's other versions going for about £8. Again, looks like the German version, but probably has the English language soundtrack with it. Helmet got smacked there, yes he did. Smacked in the helmet. It's a bloody stylish shot of him though, isn't it, as he's getting dragged away. That's interesting. Main baddie isn't killed in this one. He's just reapprehended. Yes. In some ways, it's quite satisfying because you don't really want to see him evade justice in that kind of way. It's always one of the frustrating things, isn't it, when you see these, particularly like with American, these mass shooters, and they so often don't have to face justice, but he's going to have to. He's realising it's over. Yeah, it is a hell of a performance with him. He's got that kind of wild sort of just show of various emotions and swings from one extreme to the other, and you get those moments like where he meets his sister and all that kind of stuff, which is a lot softer side of him, and then his brutal side, which you see throughout most of the movie, and then his more cowardly bit where he's actually up against someone on a level playing field who happens to be a better fighter than him, and he's kind of feared. He's in fear of him. But that's a cool film. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Bronson would have made him face the music, yes. See, that's the thing, isn't it? I think there's something about, films like Death Wish, the series of films of Death Wish, in fact, where it's essentially like the death penalty or nothing. You know what I mean? It's like they've got to go. There's got to be the fight to the death. There's no because the justice system in those films is broken, and they don't really kind of want to rely on that. So the whole point of Kersey in Death Wish is that he is street justice, if you like. So there's no going to court because the courts failed him before. So the only solution is the gun, which is a very, very American ideal. And I find Death Wish an interesting film, but I find it because I did that summer special, comparing that and Falling Down for the ideas that sort of run through both films, and I find Falling Down a more satisfying film, more interesting film. It sort of challenges a bunch of those notions, whereas Death Wish kind of buys into the fantasy, which I think is a much more it's a much less tasteful kind of option, if you like. And some people would like the film because of that, more because of that. And certainly, you know, Barry, when who I made the comparison as partly as a response to his video, because I massively respect his opinion on film. He did a fascinating one on Death Wish. And I just thought, oh, how can I do this and actually sort of make it like a bit more of an interesting thing than me just doing the same thing. So comparing the two films, which have some similar ideas of this sort of vigilante justice, and I find Falling Down is a much more realistic take on the kind of consequences. Yeah, it's heightened and stuff. You know, it goes crazy places, but I think it's a more realistic take on the kind of ideas of, you know, this escalation of violence. Death Wish 2 is a good laugh. Don't get me wrong. I mean, most of the Death Wish films are entertaining, but I think probably from 3 on they got increasingly ridiculous. I remember 3 being very, very, very controversial back in the day. You sort of look at it now, you're going to go, why? You know, I mean, the original Death Wish is one thing, and it had a hard time at the BBFC and all that kind of stuff. Michael Winner was not particularly happy with James Furman for his decisions. Love Falling Down, a masterpiece of 90s cinema. Death Wish 2 is my favourite, yeah. I think Falling Down is a much more well thought out approach to the subject than any of the Death Wish. Although Death Wish is, you know, it kind of buys into the American mentality. It's like a Wild West film in modern day. In that kind of respect, and don't get me wrong, I do like the film. I think it's a great film, but the ethos of it is, you know, certainly not kind of my take. And I think it kind of like I say, it buys into that mentality of the only justice is the justice you deliver. You can take away from that what you would. Death Wish 2 is a tough sit through, even after the 7 minutes of it. You know what? I haven't watched it in such a long time that I can't remember that much of it. I do remember that, you know, I mean, it was one thing that was very common in the whole kind of Death Wish series was it's just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy gets visited upon Paul Kersey. So the first one, his wife gets killed and his daughter is raped. The second one, she's raped again and killed. And then just like, you know, they really sort of had to stretch it further and further and further until he became this sort of almost underground superhero with a gun by the end of it. Although, you know, the amusing thing was always kind of like the situation that he was in from film to film. Because obviously, you know, Bronson was getting older, and the people that he was kind of like hanging around with were getting older too. It's almost like a shootout in an old folks' home by like the 4th or 5th movie. It was kind of funny. Oh dear. Anyway. I think we are probably getting to a point we should probably call it an evening. I hope you enjoyed the film. I think it was a good choice by Kerry. Kerry's been very quiet, so I don't know if she's still around or if she had to slip away, but there you go. Anyway, we will call it an evening for now, and hopefully I'll do one next week. Got to see where we're at by the end of next week, because I'll be back at work and stuff like that. However, I will start working on some stuff for a next review and see if I can start building up that momentum again. It was kind of fun releasing the Manus video, although it's not got that many views, but yeah, I've never really been kind of that worried about it. So, 7 out of 10, had fun, yes. 7 out of 10 is not a bad mark for any film. Actually, this is a film that does sort of grow on you a little bit the more you watch it. But anyway, you know where to drop suggestions. Rambleaholics on Facebook. If you want to kind of suggest a movie, can't guarantee that we'll be playing them, but it certainly gives us a few suggestions, and we'll see what we'll do as of next week. Hopefully, in the not too distant future, we'll get Simon on the stream and another one with Kerry. I think it's probably going to be in September, October sort of time, possibly, but we will see. Should be back on Facebook Monday, unless you find some contentious post from months ago. Oh God, yeah. I think the only person that gets more Facebook jail time than you is Josh Hadley. Need to watch that Zardoz review. Feel free. Night Riders sometime, if we can find a copy of it. It's either out, it's a Bring Your Own Media. Anyway, shall we say goodnight? I'm going to open the door, get some fresh air in here because it's getting really warm. Thanks for joining. We'll see you at some point soon. Take care of yourself, folks, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good night.